Okay, this evening we have a very special presentation and a vehicle. We have the vehicle from the Placer County Search and Rescue Communications Team, and we have Ron, WE6BB, and he's going to give a talk today on the Placer County Search and Rescue Communications Team and their vehicle. Ron?
Hadn't really planned on saying a whole lot, but I do have the vehicle out here. We have, I'm not sure if how many of you know, but we've got quite a few volunteers that will man this truck, and many other volunteers which will man the truck that also take part in much of the maintenance of the vehicle and making sure that it is always ready for service. We've been doing a lot of things lately on the truck, and I believe everything is supposed to be working now. One issue that we've been dealing with for well over a year was our satellite dish for getting internet capabilities when we're out far away from cell phone signal. We like having internet for multitudes of reasons. Sometimes just to pass the boredom, but we also will be looking up information. We can also use it for, especially if we're having to use the satellite, we can get a phone line using our voice over IP phone line as well. We also have a couple handheld satellite telephones as well, but we try to have many fallback methods for both telephone, computer, and radio. So we've got a lot of toys to play with. I've been with the search and rescue team for about 9 years now. I started off just wanting something to do, something to play with, some toys that I can't afford to justify buying myself. I can play with other people's money to play with these toys. I've had a lot of fun with it. As I said, I believe we have several members from your club that are already volunteers. I'm not sure how many that is at the moment.
N6UG's in.
No, he resigned. Stuart took a leave of absence.
Oh.
George had to take a leave of absence. I think I'm the last guy.
Yeah, we've had many members. I believe George is one that came up with our how to do a lot of our portable repeater antenna mount. We've had other people that have provided other specialties, or everyone has their own specialty. We have people that have been working for television stations. We have people that are professional radio technicians, and I happen to be a nurse that works on an ambulance, nowhere near technology related, but I do this for fun. One of the projects, another one that we've been working on is using, I'll be showing you in the truck for those that want to check it out. We have GPS capabilities similar to like an APRS, but we're using Kenwood's proprietary Fleet Sync technology for identifying the radios, and we have GPS microphones that work with the radio. So whenever a team calls in on the radio, it pops up on a map where they are, and then we have software for logging all of the radio traffic. And if the GPS microphone is being used, it will not only identify what radio is calling in, but also where they are, which is quite useful. To my knowledge, we haven't used it on a search, but we have used it in our Map and Compass class, and it worked great in our Map and Compass class. So I'm quite happy that that's all been working. I've got it set up, and I've been playing in the parking lot while you guys started your meeting. And I'm otherwise ready to start showing people.
How about we talk about different repeaters that we have available to us?
Okay. Well, we do have, as as I guess you could call it a team group, we do have some amateur repeaters that are under W6 SAR. Those are maintained primarily by, I think it's Eric Struble. And, but we have then in addition, in search and rescue, we don't officially use ham radios. Nearly all of us are hams that are on the comm team. It's only maybe one or two that are not amateur radio operators. In search and rescue, we are using the public safety band VHF high, and we have a license for those. And then we have multiple fixed repeaters that we have on several different mountain tops, most of them being around where the ski resorts are. So like on Mount Lincoln, Ward Peak, Signal Peak. We have one in Gold Run. We have one over beyond Lake Berea, or Lake Folsom, up in Folsom. Out in the thermal lands. We've got several fixed repeaters, but as you know, Placer County has a lot of rough terrain out there, and despite our best projections as to where to put our repeaters, it's impossible to cover everything. So we also have a portable repeater, which I also have set up out here. Very compact, folds up. We can throw it into a Jeep or into a helicopter and send it off to a mountain peak somewhere that by looking at where we're searching, we can kind of predict a hopefully a good location for our portable repeater to cover the area that we are searching. And it's been working quite well for us. And while I did not do any of that design, I'm proud of the guys that did do that design. About a month ago, I took the truck to San Francisco for a annual Mobile Command Center rally where people that, law enforcement agencies, fire agencies, and other disaster services bring their communication vehicles for kind of a show and tell. Most of the years they're in the Sacramento area. This year we had to go to AT&T Park in San Francisco for the demonstration. But everyone there had their big, huge, behemoth pavement queens, big RV type vehicles, and we have our little truck, which looks quite puny compared to all these other vehicles out there. Everyone, especially places like, oh, come on, what's the name of that town? Not Sunnyvale, Palo Alto. Palo Alto has a big compound of command vehicles, and the budget that they must have is just amazing. And the latest and greatest of all the technologies. And here we have my little portable repeater set up. And I had people coming from all over the place wanting to take pictures of this and see how it was constructed. And I'm telling them it was one of our volunteers that came up with this design and explained how, I mean, they can see how simple of a design it is. And they're just like blown away because all of this high-tech technology that, this commercial technology is very complicated, and this is so simple and it works. So I had a lot of people that were quite interested in that. What else?
Interoperability?
We have set up in the truck, we have two 800 megahertz radios that have City of Roseville's trunked radio system programmed in. I believe we also have Sac County's trunked radio system also programmed into it. And then we have 4 VHF high band radios, 3 UHF radios with varying splits, and then we have 2 VHF low band. And all of these radios are connected in the to a device that will basically do what we call radio over IP. So the carrier detect, the push to talk, and the audio both coming and going are all getting digitized into a computer network. And then we have we'll have a touch screen in there. We have two different stations where a touch screen can be used to select which radio we want to talk on. We have a headset. Instead of having a microphone for each of those radios, which we do have a microphone for each of those radios, but we can select between the different radios by just touching a button on the screen, and we can choose to talk on that radio. We can also choose to speak on multiple radios on different bands simultaneously. We can also set up an impromptu repeater, like a crossband repeater, or we can also link together maybe two frequencies on a same band, but as long as they're far enough apart, we can link together. So if someone doesn't have a particular, when we're working with multiple agencies, someone may not have the proper channel. One example of this, I was called out to assist in the special enforcement team was looking for some fugitives that, or they had tried arresting a guy and they took off running after even the guy had his handcuffs on, and he took off running from the deputy. This is up in Forest Hill, and they were down Finning Mill Road, and a CHP officer was watching one of the areas, but he could not hear what was going on, and it was more for curiosity. He wanted to know what was going on down the hill, and he did not have the proper frequency in his vehicle, and I set it up so he could hear on a frequency that he did have in his patrol vehicle, and it was just I ended up putting it on the 800 megahertz, so the CHP officer was able to hear the VHF traffic on his 800 megahertz radio, which I'm not sure if you know the CHP vehicles, but they have multi-band capability, all with one headset in there. But that was just one example of how to do that. We could also create, just on the fly, the ability for the City of Roseville Police and the Sacramento Sheriffs and the Placer County Sheriffs. We can set up a tactical frequency that all of them can utilize at the same time. This capability is more for the law enforcement side, but if we find some other reason to use it, we could use it on search as well. If we have the capability, should the capability need arise.
Question. What requirements to get comm team to roll out on something? You probably don't go out on all search and rescues.
The decision as to whether to roll the communications unit is based on the when there's first, like say, a search, a sheriff deputy will decide we need to call search and rescue, and so they will contact a member of the incident command support group, which is the people that are kind of organizing how a search is going to take place, and they try to understand what the search is for, what type of terrain it's going to be in, what kind of conditions are they expecting, and what resources are they going to need in order to fulfill the needs of the job. And if they're going to have many people that are out and they are not going to be within eyesight of each other, they generally want to have the communications unit. So for example, an evidence search, they'll frequently call out for an evidence search where they're just looking for evidence related to a crime. Everyone's going to be lining up basically where you can touch the shoulder of the person next to you, and they're just going to go through maybe a field that way. They are going to be so close to each other that they really don't need radio communications for that. But then you have a search for someone that's lost out in the forest. They know we're going to need radios for this. We need everyone to be able to communicate. We don't want to lose anybody out there. So we need the comm team. And so when they order their resources, they're going to say, we want the comm team, we want the ground team, we want mountain rescue, we want the 4x4 team, we want the dog team, or the horseback mounted team, and motorcycles. So we have multiple different resources available within search and rescue, and the incident command support group is the ones that determine what their needs will be. When they decide that we need communications, we have a process where most of us get the notification that there is a search, but thankfully with communications, we don't need absolutely everybody on every search. The ground team, they generally want to have anybody that's available to show up, because the more the merrier when you're having people on the ground looking for a lost subject. But there's an extent to how many communications people you can have. That contract will only comfortably hold 2 to 3 people at the most for any extended period of time. When you come out and look at it, we might have more than 3 people in there, but it does get pretty tight when you have more than that. And there might be some little tasks that need to be done outside the vehicle, but still, we only need like 2 to 3 people to operate communications for the most incidents. But instead of getting way out in the middle of nowhere, we are usually on roads that you can drive on, because we have to be able to get there. So instead of being on a search that may last days and we're just going to be stuck out there for days, we'll often take turns being out there in the field. So the first few people may be able to say, well, I can go out for the next 4 hours, but after that I've got some other commitments. So I'll respond now, or I'll be able to go out now, but I'm going to need to be replaced. So we have a couple people that are, their job is to just communicate. We communicate amongst each other primarily by texting when there is a search to say, I'm available. Everyone reports their availability, and you may say, I'm not available now, but I will be available at a certain time if the need is still around. So whoever's going to organize it will know, okay, we'll send these people now, we'll send these people later to be the relief crew, and it makes it so we don't get as exhausted as many of the other searchers out there in the field. We don't have to be out there all night long. If everyone else is going to be out there all night long, we can be out there for just part of that time and share the responsibility amongst us. So therefore it's not as distracting to life in general as those that are on the other teams. We generally get more of the technology geeky type people on our team, as opposed to the really outdoors type people. Those of us on the comm team are required to take some of the classes that all the other searchers are required to take, but we are not required to take all of those courses if we choose not to take them. I happen to have taken all of the classes, and I technically could go out on a ground search if I wanted to. I really don't care to go out in the field too often. I like to stay closer to the truck and make sure that everything is working properly in the field. So if I have time available, I'll go with communications, but I maintain all of those other certifications because it's good to know what the people in the field are going through. I've taken the classes, I've gone and done the same things that they have. I choose to stay in the truck where it's either warm when it's cold out or it's cold when it's warm out. I can be checking my email while everyone else is incommunicado out there other than the radio. So we have a little bit more creature comforts. We still have to find a tree if necessary. Seldom do they actually have restrooms there, but we may set up at a facility that does actually have a restroom, which is really nice, because then we have the restrooms while they all have to find trees.
You talked about working with other law enforcement agencies such as Roseville, Esso, and Sacramento. Do you also work with the armed forces like the National Guard?
On many of our searches, we primarily on, say, a day 2 or day 3 of our operations, we will frequently get National Guard involved. What was it, about 2 to 3 years ago? I remember the Cody Michaels search. Cody Michaels is a young guy that had just been hired on with the Placer County Probation's Department. And he and his dog decided to go for a hike up around Big Bend area. And he got lost. And after a bit, his cell phone died. He was relying on his cell phone for his GPS, and which is actually quite common for a lot of our searches. People expect their technology to work everywhere they go, even in the middle of nowhere. And so we did have the National Guard come out. They brought a few toys of their own. We used the National Guard helicopter to load up our portable repeater on, and we ended up sending our unit leader, one of the Sheriff Department sergeants, I believe there was an El Dorado County Sheriff deputy that went along for the ride. Cody Michaels' father was on board the helicopter, and I believe Bill Bomer was on the helicopter. He's part of the Incident Command Support Group. And so they go up in the helicopter. They found a mountain peak that we believed would probably cover the area well. And the helicopter really couldn't land, so they kind of did a one skid. They jumped off the helicopter, and the helicopter took off, telling them, just call us when you're ready for a pickup. A few minutes later, they realized that they had some radio issues with the helicopter, and without telling the guys that were deploying the portable repeater, they decided they had to go back to Mather Field to change their helicopter, leaving the crew up there on this mountain point for almost 2 hours when they were only expecting to be up there for 15 minutes. That was very comical in my opinion. I was back at the command post the whole time. But that was one use of the National Guard, using their helicopter. They also did, that evening that I was up there, after the search was finished, they came out with another helicopter that did imaging, and they were basically doing multiple flyovers, basically mowing the lawn type flying over of the area, basically getting a high resolution imaging using different wavelengths of light, whether it be standard images or thermal imaging, just to basically try to get a very good mapping of the area using different technology that the National Guard has available. So then they were able to review, they were able to stitch all of those images together into one big overview and then try to start searching. On that particular search, on, I can't remember which day it was, the helicopter was flying around, the National Guard helicopter. They were flying way outside the area that we were searching, and they looked down and they saw a guy waving at them, and there was duct tape spelling SOS on a rock. And so they came in and found out, sure enough, that was Cody Michaels and his dog down there. And they were able to pick him up. He happened to have gone the absolute worst direction he could have gone. He was getting further and further lost instead of staying still and being found.
Why don't we go outside and take a look at the comm van?
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Right? Using lower power. There we go.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we can run, we're supposed to be able to run about 3 or 4 hours on batteries.
3 or 4 hours, huh?
Yep. And then we gotta get the generators going. Usually what we do is we'll show up to the search and then we'll turn everything on and get going.
Okay.
And then as time goes on, we'll pull out the generators and get everything going.
So you run on the batteries first.
Usually what we'll do.
Fire up the generator. Turn off the batteries. Run on the generator for a while.
The generator will charge the
Charge the
batteries.
batteries back up. Okay. So we have 4 times what? How many volts?
Those are 12 volt.
12 volts.
They're all in parallel.
Oh, parallel.
Yeah.
So 12 volt system total.
12 volt system total.
Okay.
I don't think there's an inverter system somewhere. Inverter. I think it's inside right there.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
So battery
we'll have-
packs. Oh, we got 100 generators.
Yeah, normally we'll have
Which you
2. We'll
can't
run
see.
2, but if we need heaters or air conditioners, we have to run a 3rd generator.
So I smell gas, but you can't see anything.
Yeah. So they have all the generators have these external gas tanks.
Okay.
So if we go around the other side, I'll show you the generators.
Okay.
So we'll run 2 generators, and then we have the companion box. That'll go for air line. And if we run a heater or an air conditioner, we'll run that 3rd generator and run it in there.
So for the tape, can you give us a little tour?
Excuse me, let me get out.
Let me get out of the way.
Starting up at the front here, I've got multiple radios. I've got 2 800 megahertz radios, 4 VHF high band. I've got 3 UHF. This is another, actually I do have a 5th VHF high band radio. That one's a new Kenwood for our new tracking system. And then I have 2 VHF low band radios. They are all linked together through these Telex IP223 devices, which digitizes the audio and allows us to remotely control all of those radios from this touch screen, where I can choose which of those radios over here I wish to communicate on, or I could multi-select and choose to be transmitting on multiple radios all at the same time. And we can then, instead of having to use the traditional microphone, we can just use a headset. We can control the push to talk with multiple things, whether it be the push to talk on the screen, space bar on the there, or we also have a foot pedal similar to a sewing machine, which gives us full true hands-free communications. We have our logging software here. This is software that was designed by one of the volunteers from Nevada County, and it will get the GP or the coordinates of where the different radios are transmitting from in a UTM coordinate system, which is what we use in Placer County. And we can, when a unit calls in, it'll pop up with which team is calling in, and I can say they called in saying they are departing IC, and it will log team 1 is departing IC. It keeps track of how long it's been since the last time we've communicated with that unit. So if we haven't heard from a team for a period of time, it will indicate we haven't talked to this person. Let's call them and find out, are they still okay out there, because we haven't heard them on the radio in quite some time.
And you've got 2 setups?
I have 2 setups. So this is what we call Workstation 1, where you have both a computer for logging or bringing up a web browser, or we have 2 stations for that. If we were operating on multiple channels at a time, we can have one person operating on one channel in this station and a person operating in another on this station, and they can both be working independently from each other as long as they're not talking on the same radio at the same time. For that network, we have the capability of either using AT&T's wireless, Verizon wireless, some Wi-Fi hotspot that happens to be around, or a satellite dish which is up on the roof. So depending on where we are, we can use different technologies for getting our internet. We also have voice phone lines from Verizon, AT&T, and then we also have voice over internet, or VoIP, which will give us a phone line on up to 3 different phone lines. The PepWave here is that's our router that will, as I said, will give you either cellular on, as I mentioned, either AT&T or Verizon. It will also pick up on the on a Wi-Fi hotspot, and it will also pick up from a wired Ethernet connection, which we have tied in with the satellite dish system. So we have multiple ways, multiple fallbacks in case one technology doesn't work. The cellular tends to be the fastest and most reliable if we have service. But out in the forest, many areas, there is no cell service, so that's why we have the satellite dish.
And then you've got Ethernet. I guess I see a switch here and a
Yeah,
switch down below.
we have 2 switches. Each of these devices has to have its own network connection. Each one of these computers needs its own computer, or its own connection. The computers themselves, we are using Mac Minis, which are running Basecamp to run Windows 7 at the moment. Those Mac Minis are placed in, we can put 2 Mac Minis in a 1U rack space, and allows us to travel quite well with a Mac Mini, which would normally be pretty difficult to deal with in a moving vehicle, but this makes it quite easy.
And then charging stations for...
we have charging
handheld?
stations for these are for the telephones, the cordless telephones.
Okay.
We carry we carry 24 portable radios that we will issue out to the searchers. 10 of them include GPS on the microphone, and the remainder of them at the moment do not have GPS capabilities. But we will still be able to identify which radio is which, even if they don't have the GPS capability. We'll still be able to tell what team each radio belongs to.
Okay. And second set of Mac Minis up here?
Yes, so these each have a Mac Mini, these each have a Mac Mini. There's only one Mac Mini up here, and I will soon be creating a new server for the map. Currently, the map server is being operated on the same computer as this radio control station, but I will...
And this is the map server over here?
It's not really a map server, it's just another Mac Mini, but it's the one that we primarily will use for mapping purposes. We can mirror the screen to this computer up here, or this screen, and this screen here is also capable of being touch. So it allows us to move this around. If we wanted to, we could also bring some pens that look kind of like a dry erase, and we would normally put our pens down here, but that would allow us to draw directly on the screen, and whatever we drew could be then created as a layer on top of the image behind it.
Okay.
Iridium, and we have usually it's the radio itself, a battery box, cables, and then take the repeater antenna out there. And George, KG6S LSB, was the one who put this together. It's set up so that you fold it all together and all comes into one packet. It's about, it ends up about this long. So, like Ron said, we'll throw it in a 4x4 and we'll take it someplace. If we have to, we'll throw it on an ATV or a motorcycle. And yeah, we don't have a whole lot of coasts here except the Tahoe.
How heavy does it weigh when it's all together in a package?
What's that?
How much weight?
The battery I think is about the heaviest. So we're all on, I think, 154.56, I think is the frequency all these are on. We just use different PL codes for different repeaters.
Cool.
We actually have two of these, so, but the other one, the antenna's huge, so it's not as portable as this one is.
Yeah, but still pretty small package to drop off anywhere.
So we did a training one time over by Yuba Gap, and we were up at the Sunflower Recreation Area, and the ground team decided to go into the lakes, and it was a snow camp, and a big mountain right between us. And so we had to literally drive this off to the side, just enough to get it around the side of the mountain so that they could hear us. So when he was talking about the helicopter story, this is the piece that they actually used. They threw it in a helicopter. Actually, we didn't have this antenna at the time. The antenna was much bigger, and they had actually strapped it to the skids of the helicopter. It was too big to fit in the helicopter.
This would fit in it now.
Yeah, so now it'll fit. That's why we changed it.
That's perfect.
So some of the other things the Comban can do, he didn't mention, we have a marine radio in there. So if we need marine, it has amateur radio in there. So if we need an amateur radio, then of course it's got all the VHF radios as well. We have printer in there, so we use SAR Turbo as our software.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
And so if we need to adjust the search area or whatever, we can print it from there. We have a smart board in there as well, so if they want to make notes, they can put that on there. It has direct TV, just to check the news.
You all right?
Or watch the ball game, like you said, past the boredom. Make sure you get in there and look at the computer with the touchscreen. So
I saw that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Had to get in there. That's a pretty neat connection to all the various radios. Yeah, with two operating
You just set up the two
stations.
different radios. I want that one linked to that one, and you push the talk and away you go. Or you can use the computer keyboard. We have a foot switch. This thing is also set up that if they have a tactical situation, those two stations are set up identical to
what
the.
it costs to maintain this?
I don't know.
A lot of places, a lot of groups get rid of it.
So I don't have a
I don't know what. There's
If you go to like
anything inside the box, the comm team has to take care of. Everything outside, we call it the module. Everything outside the module, the county takes care of. So batteries, vehicle maintenance, and things like that, the county pays for. When it goes inside, we have to pay for it. And we don't spend a lot of money for maintenance. We cycle the generators through, I think, every 6 months.
But I don't have an answer.
And
Actually, it just showed
we
up
don't spend
before I
itself
could-
itself
Yeah, so I was just taking it out.
by the county. Yeah, all of it's county equipment. All of it's county equipment.